Hey guys, so I'm gonna be talking to you guys about how I found out I was pregnant and my symptoms. So, I found out the first week of April, but before I get into that, if you hear any noise, I apologize. It's my air conditioner, and if you also hear another noise, it's probably my dog. So, I'm apologizing in advance. So, basically, the last 2 weeks of March, um, I was just getting so moody with like everyone. Like that was like the first symptom that I had. It was just moodiness. And it was to the point where like anything would just annoy me, especially like I was arguing with my parents, my siblings, and my boyfriend. But like my boyfriend, especially, like I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to hug him. I didn't want to kiss him. I just didn't want him near me. Like I would look at him and be like, oh, like why are you here? And I just felt so bad. Like I would sit down and think like, what is wrong with me? Like, what are you going through? Like, do you need help? My mom even asked me like, are you okay? And I'd be like, I don't know. Like I don't know what's going on. And she'd be like, do you need therapy? Um, but she also pointed out that my face was like pale. She was like, Madeline, I think you're pregnant. And I would be like, oh. And I told her, and I had told her, I was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, why would I be pregnant? And I showed her the calendar. Like I was like, do you see like how many days left until I get my period? And she was like, okay, like, but she had pointed it out. And I feel like a mother knows like when you're pregnant, right? So then after that, my boyfriend was just also feeling sad. Like he was just like, he was also throwing up. um but he was just sad. Like he was like telling my mom like, I don't know what is it, like something is just missing. And so my mom would talk to him like what's going on, like what do you need? But we was both like, he was sad and I was just angry, and I was starting arguments. um and I did apologize. Like I felt bad. Like I was like, oh. But then afterwards, April comes. So I'm about to get my period, and it's like the day before I get my period, and I'm cramping. So I'm like, I'm gonna get my period. And like to me, getting a period was just every month. Like, but I was just so excited to like get it. So it's the day before, and I'm getting cramps, and I'm like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna get my period. And that day comes, and I'm just cramping so bad. And I'm like, oh, I tell my boyfriend, I was like, oh, I'm about to get my period, but I'm just cramping like bad. And he's like, oh, you're probably gonna get it today. And I'm like, yeah, it says today. So that day ends, and I'm like, okay, like I'm probably gonna get it tomorrow. But mind you, like I've never missed my period. Like a day has never missed. Like I'm always on time. So I'm like, okay, tomorrow comes, and I'm like cramping again. So I'm like, that's weird. And like, but I didn't think much of it. Like I was just like, oh, like I'm probably gonna get my period, or I'm probably stressing, because I've heard that people say like if you stress a lot or you're stressing, your period like delays. So I'm on like the second day, and it's time to go to bed. And I'm like, I haven't got my period, and I'm like the third day, right? So I'm like, it's time for me to go to work, but I'm cramping like bad. Like when I'm telling you, it was like a bad, like I've had bad cramps. Like I've had a heavy flow, and I've had bad cramps. So I didn't think much of it, right? So I'm getting dressed for work, and I'm like, oh, my mom sees me sleeping, and that was another symptom. I forgot. I was sleeping a lot. So she's like, what's wrong? She's like, you're about to go to work, but you don't look well. And I was like, mom, I'm cramping like so bad, but like I'm getting like no flow, no nothing, like no blood is coming out of me. And she was like, I'm gonna take you to the hospital, right? Because she was starting to get concerned, because it was like 3 days, and it's like no blood, and then it's like I'm just cramping like really bad. But she was just like, all right, we'll go. Like, she was cleaning, like she was mopping, and I'm like, okay. um so I waited for her. I called out of my job, and I'm like, oh, I can't go, like I'm not feeling well. And so um I remember we went, and I was like cramping like so bad, and they did the urine. um they did the urine test, and they was like, when was your last period? And I was like, such and such. And so then it was like, okay, just go pee in the cup. And when I tell you, like, I didn't think much of it. Like, I was like, oh, this is gonna come back negative. um I know, they're like, the doctor comes in, like they call me up. So the nurse had took me in first, right, for the urine. So the doctor is like, oh, Madeline, come in. And I'm like, okay. um they're like, well, there's nothing really wrong, other than you're pregnant, you're 4 weeks. And I was like my face like stood blank. Like, I didn't even know what to say. And he was just like, I hope it's good news. And I was just like in shock, because I was like I didn't even know what to say. Like, I was trying to process it. And in that moment, I was just like the words that came out of his mouth was not the words that I expected. I thought he was just gonna be like, oh, you have an infection, or something. But the way that he said, you're 4 weeks, and I was just like I didn't even, I was like in shock. And basically he was just like, congratulations. And I was like, thank you. And he was like, I really hope it's good news. So I walk out the hospital, and I'm like, my mom's looking at me, and I'm all like blank. Like, I didn't even have no like expression, no nothing. Like, I was just so like in shock. So my mom's like, well, what did they tell you? And I'm like, that I have something, and they're gonna prescribe pills, right? And she's like, but what do you have? And I was like, oh, it's nothing, Mom. And I was just like, can we just go home? And she was just like, well, what did they tell you? She was on me. And I was like, oh. And as soon as we're leaving the hospital, I broke down. Like, I was like, Mom, I'm pregnant. And she was just like, it's okay. Like she was just comforting me. And I was just like, like, it was just a shocking news. Like, I was like, wow, like, I didn't even expect it. But then again, I also was not using birth control, and I was trying for like about 5 months with my boyfriend. So it's like, but I had lost hope, and I was just like, oh, like, it's not meant to be, you know? And so then when they told me that news, I guess that's why I was so shocked. And in that moment, like, I couldn't process it. So I go back home that day. Me and my mom are on our way, and I was just so emotional. I was on my way back home with my mom, and I remember that, like, it was just, oh, I don't want to cry. But we come back home, and she's just looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like I told her, like, I was like, I don't know how to be a mom, you know? Oh, I don't want to get emotional. And she was like, oh, it's okay. Hold on, guys. Oh. But she was just like, it's okay, Madeline. Like, nobody is prepared. And I was just like, I know, Mom, but I'm 20. Like, I was telling her, like, I was like, what if I'm not good as you know? And she was like, Madeline, like, don't say that. Like, she was just giving me like the most amazing words. And I feel like I'm just so thankful, like, she's my mom. So then afterwards, she's like, so are you gonna tell your boyfriend? And I'm like, well, yeah, you know. So it ended up, I had 2 pregnancies at home, and I just had them just in case, like, I missed my period or anything. And I took them when I came back home. Well, when I was talking to her, I was like, Mom, I don't believe it, like, because they didn't show me like the pregnancy test. They just told me like you're 4 weeks, that's it. So I was like, Mom, I don't believe them. I'm just gonna take these 2 pregnancy tests to see like if I'm really pregnant. Like, I need to see with my own eyes, like the 2 lines. So I go to the bathroom, I pee in a cup, and I take the 2 pregnancy tests, and it says pregnant. And I'm like, I come out and I'm like, Mom, like, it's true. Like, that's when I really like started believing it. I was like I'm pregnant, you know. So we start planning it, and we're like, oh, we're just gonna surprise my boyfriend, but I don't have a video of it, so because I think it would have been nice. So I basically, like, my mom writes him a letter because I was just so emotional. Like, I didn't know like how to feel. Like, I don't know, like, I was just so emotional. So my mom writes him a letter like, oh, like, you're gonna be a dad. And she takes my pregnancy test, and I'm just so thankful. Like, my mom was just doing everything for me because I was just so emotional. And basically, like, he was in shock too. Like, he was like, oh, you're lying, this and that. And then afterwards, like, he was happy, but he was just so concerned because I was crying. But it was just because I was in shock. Like, I was just so emotional. And now, and then he also said like, oh, like, it's okay, like, comforting me. And like, it was him and my mom. And then and I was just like, oh, but my dad doesn't know, like, what is my dad gonna say? Like, he's probably gonna get mad at me. But no, like, everybody's like around me, like, the whole support that I had was just so amazing. And that's why, like, I say, like, I'm just so thankful that I had like a big support team, and I still have my support team. Like, they're just so amazing, and I'm just so thankful. Okay, so that's basically my story. I am now 25 weeks pregnant, and I'm so excited. Like, pregnancy goes by fast. Like, I'm almost done. Like, I'm due December 11th, and it's about to be September, so time is going by quick. But I really hope you guys enjoy the video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.